Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's about 10 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with my normal Sunday morning announcements and logistical notes. Hope y'all are doing well this morning. We're recovering from being sick over here, so yeah, that's where I'm coming from. So we're going to give about 5 more minutes before we get started with the service. But first, I'm going to ask you to mute your mics if they're not muted already. We want to let you know this meeting is being recorded, which you probably heard that upon coming in. If you have any questions about that, just reach out to us privately. A portion of the service, we will be inviting you to journal. So if you're interested in that, now's a good time to grab a journal or a notebook and a pen if you'd like to participate in journaling. Also, now is a good time to find a comfortable space where you can relax and be present for the service, if that's possible for you this morning. A little refresher on Psanctuary. Psanctuary Church is a 508c1a faith-based organization. We use psilocybin mushrooms as a sacrament to connect us to divinity. So if you, like many others throughout history, hold these mushrooms as a sacrament for sincere and intentional spiritual practice, you can inquire about becoming a member if you're not yet a member by going to our website, sanctuary.org, and heading over to the member page. You can also send an email to info@sanctuary.org. Also a reminder, if you haven't checked out our new website, we encourage you to do so. It is fully up, and there's lots of information on there about Psanctuary. So I invite you to check that out. Please do consider donating to Psanctuary. All donations currently go towards operational expenses. This includes running these Sunday services and securing a location for in-person group sacrament services, which we are very eager to get started for our members. If you have any questions about sacramental services, also you can reach out to us at info@sanctuary.org, and we'll let you know what we have coming up. We have a really big vision here at Psanctuary, and that includes a community built on sustainability through permaculture and more accessible and frequent opportunities for services with our sacrament. For more information on donating to Psanctuary, you can go to our website, sanctuary.org, and there's a few different ways to donate, so you can check that out there. So these Sunday services are a place we gather together as a currently small but quickly growing community. We do not participate or partake in the sacrament during these Sunday services, but we find common ground together in our recognition that the mushroom has brought us here together. The service portion of our gathering today is about 30 minutes, and it's silent participation on your part. If you are new, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy for 30 minutes. And then following that, Eric will be leading a discussion, which we allot about an hour and a half for until noon Eastern time. We have 2 readings every Sunday. We'll be moving through different texts. Right now, the texts that we have selected are the Tao Te Ching and the Science of Being Great. We utilize these texts as an opportunity for rich discussion. And we feel that these texts do a pretty good job of communicating different messages that we've receive during our time spent with the mushroom. We do invite open and honest discussion. We'll also be reading from the Litany of Gratitude, which is a poem which acknowledges our oneness with all that is. And we'll also have a meditation. So with all that being said, I'm going to pass this on to Athena to begin the service. Please do get comfortable. Thank you again for joining us today, and I hope you can stay for discussion afterwards. And if not, we wish you a great Sunday and a great week ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Courtney. Again, just like to reiterate that welcome and thank you for joining our sanctuary community and celebration. As we begin our statement of faith, we recognize this statement does not exhaust the extent of our faith. We believe that sacred mushrooms are the primary source of personal divine revelation. We seek counsel from the mushroom in order to find direction and inspiration in our faith practice, and we that all individuals who seek true revelation from divinity can do so. We do have slides. If you are on your phone and would like to swipe left, you should be able to follow along with us. And we begin each service with a meditation. So I invite you again to get to a comfortable position, to reflect on the intentions that brought you here today, to reflect on those that have joined us, our fellow humans around the world, and the hopes we have for today and each day. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And really find yourself grounded in this moment together. I invite you to take another deep inhale, exhale. Find yourself here with us today. Give me just a moment to pause the music. All right, and we will begin our reading, chapter 16, The Science of Being Great. We go back here to the maker of the point of view, for besides being vitally important, it is the one that is likely to give the student the most trouble. We have been trained, partly by mistaken religious teachers, to look upon the world as being like a wrecked ship, storm-driven upon a rocky coast. Utter destruction is inevitable at the end, and the most that can be done is to rescue perhaps a few of the crew. This view teaches us to consider the world as essentially bad and growing worse, and to believe that existing discords and inharmoniousness must continue and intensify until the end. It robs us of hope for society, government, and humanity, and gives us a decreasing outlook and contracting mind. This is all wrong. The world is not wrecked. It is like a magnificent steamer with the engines in place and the machinery in perfect order. The bunkers are full of coal, and the ship is amply provisioned for the cruise. There's no lack of any good thing. Every provision omniscience could devise has been made for the safety, comfort, and happiness of the crew. The steamer is out on the high seas, tacking hither and thither because no one has yet learned the right course to steer. We are learning to steer, and in due time will come grandly into the harbor of perfect harmony. The world is good and growing better. Existing discords and inharmoniousness are but the pitching of the ship incidental to our own imperfect steering. They will all be removed in due time. This view gives us an increasing outlook and an expanding mind. It enables us to think largely of society and of ourselves, and to do things in a great way. Furthermore, we see that nothing can be wrong with such a world or with any part of it, including our own affairs. If it is all moving on toward completion, then it is not going wrong. And as our own personal affairs are a part of the whole, they are not going wrong. You and all that you are concerned with are moving on toward completeness. Nothing can check this forward movement but yourself. And you can only check it by assuming a mental attitude that is at cross purposes with the mind of God. You have nothing to keep right but yourself. If you keep yourself right, nothing can possibly go wrong with you, and you can have nothing to fear. No business or other disaster can come upon you if your personal attitude is right, for you are a part of that which is increasing and advancing, and you must increase and advance with it. Moreover, your thought form will be mostly shaped according to your viewpoint of the cosmos. If you see the world as a lost and ruined thing, you will see yourself as part of it, and as partaking of its sins and weaknesses. If your outlook for the world as a whole is hopeless, your outlook for yourself cannot be hopeful. If you see the world as declining toward its end, you cannot see yourself as advancing. Unless you think well of all the works of God, you cannot really think well of yourself. And unless you think well of yourself, you can never become great. I repeat that your place in life, including your material environment, is determined by the thought form you habitually hold of yourself. When you make a thought form of yourself, you can hardly fail to form in your mind a corresponding environment. If you think of yourself as an incapable, inefficient person, you will think of yourself with poor or cheap surroundings. Unless you think well of yourself, you will be sure to picture yourself in a more or less poverty-stricken environment. These thoughts, habitually held, become invisible forms in the surrounding mind stuff and are with you continually. In due time, by the regular action of the internal creative energy, the invisible thought forms are produced in material stuff, and you are surrounded by your own thoughts made into material things. See nature as a great living and advancing presence, and see human society in exactly the same way. It is all one, coming from one source, and it is all good. You yourself are made of the same stuff as God. All the constituents of God are part of you. Every power that God has is a constituent of man. You can move forward as you see God doing. You have within yourself the source of every power.
Thanks, Athena. Here's our Litany of Gratitude poem. So I invite you all to unmute your mic and say this verse with me. We live in all things live in us, throughout the poem. So I'll give you a moment to unmute your mic if you would like to join in on those verses. We live by the sun, we feel by the moon, we move by the stars. We live in all things,
all things live in us.
We eat from the earth, we drink from the rain, we breathe of the air. We live in
all things,
all
all
things.
things live in us.
We call to each other, we listen to each other, our hearts deepen with love and compassion. We live
in all things, all things live in us.
We depend on the trees and animals, we depend on the earth, our minds open with wisdom and insight. We live in
all things, all things live in us.
We dedicate our practice to others, we include all forms of life, we celebrate the joy of living and dying. We live in
all things, all things live in us.
We are full of life, we are full of death, we are grateful for all beings and companions. You can mute your mics now. Thanks, everybody. This is the Tao Te Ching, chapter 16. Attain to utmost emptiness. Cling single-heartedly to interior peace. While all things are stirring together, I only contemplate the return. For flourishing as they do, each of them will return to its root. To return to the root is to find peace. To find peace is to fulfill one's destiny. To fulfill one's destiny is to be constant. To know the constant is called insight. If one does not know the constant, one runs blindly into disasters. If one knows the constant, one can understand and embrace all. If one understands and embraces all, one is capable of doing justice. To be just is to be kingly. To be kingly is to be heavenly. To be heavenly is to be one with the Tao. To be one with the Tao is to abide forever. such a one will be safe and whole, even after the dissolution of his body. Thank you.
Right, and we will take this time to reflect on the readings. And we have a couple prompts if you have your journal with you and would like to write down some of your thoughts. How can these readings be viewed through the lens of the sacred mushroom? How can these readings be applied to everyday life? And we'll take around 5 minutes to reflect. Start the music again. Right. Our 5 minutes is completed. And we'd like to close out our official service time by again recognizing that we've come together with the intent of service to the land and all its inhabitants. It is in our hearts to go forth into the world with the collective consciousness. And we encourage you to stay for continued fellowship and conversation around today's readings. If you're unable to stay, thank you again for being with us. Some announcements for the end of service. I will drop the donation link in the chat once we close out this portion. We did put Eric's ordination service to September 5th, which is Labor Day weekend, and we hope you'll be able to join us. And we have rented a pavilion in Cherokee Park, and we'll have details for that as it gets closer. Again, any feedback you have for our services, please reach out. And for those that have reached out to me about helping in any type of capacity, we truly appreciate that. And we are brainstorming and talking about ways to get people more involved. We will have Katrine will be offering meditations bi-weekly throughout the week that we are excited to be able to offer our members coming up. And so more details about that will be sent out as well. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. And I will end the recording.